social media talking about red flags in a relationship and signs that this relationship is not going to work. But how do you know when you should move forward in a relationship? Today, we're going to talk about 5 green flags in a relationship, signs that you should move this relationship forward. So, number one, you are with someone who has emotional intelligence. Emotional intelligence is the ability to understand, analyze, process, and manage your emotions. So, this is a person who can talk about his feelings. He's comfortable with that. He doesn't shy away from feelings that are anything other than things that seem macho, like anger. He's comfortable with talking about when he's happy, the fact that people make him happy. He's comfortable with talking about when he's had a rough day and when he's sad. Not just, again, the emotions that seem like they're more macho and accepting in masculine culture. If someone is if someone is emotionally intelligent, he's also comfortable with being vulnerable and knowing when and how to be vulnerable. This is really key because one, you want someone who can again express their feelings. You also want someone who has the intelligence to understand time and place. So when you meet someone, you should not be dumping every single thing on them, and they should not be doing that to you either. There's a process. A relationship has to build. You have to have some trust there first. Beyond that, they also understand uh, appropriate place. So, something that I now try to work on myself with my friends is if I have a bad day and I need to vent, and I'm going to my husband, if I'm going to a friend, if I'm going to my mother, for example, then I will say before I start the conversation, "Hey, do you have the capacity for me to vent right now?" Because I don't know, they could also be having a bad day and they don't need me talking about my issues to pile on to their bad day. So, understanding that there's a time and place to be vulnerable, it's also very important for emotional intelligence. And so is empathy, the ability to be able to understand someone else's emotions and to put yourself in their shoes. So that is the first green flag, that the person that you are dating, that you're getting to know, has emotional intelligence. The second green flag is that this person is self aware. So you want to be with a man who knows himself well. So he has taken the time to learn what triggers him. He has taken the time to learn the things that makes him happy. He's taken the time to learn what it is that he needs and what it is that he wants. I kind of want to hammer on this point really quickly because I have seen so many comments, particularly on TikTok, because that's where I spend a lot of my time nowadays, from women who say things like, why would he go out with me and then he tells me that he doesn't want anything serious, he's not ready to commit? If a man says that to you, you should thank your lucky stars. That is a good man, someone who clearly articulates what it is that he wants and doesn't want. Not everybody dates for the same purpose. If you're following me, you're most likely dating for the intent of marriage. That is your end goal. But there are some people who date just to have fun, just to work on their communication skills. And if someone is open and honest with you about the reason why they're dating, then you should be grateful for that. And if it doesn't match what you're looking for, it doesn't make the other person bad. It doesn't make him a bad guy. It just means that the two of you are looking for different things. You should thank him for his time and keep it pushing. So, a person who is self aware knows what they want, they know what they need, and they're also working on becoming a better person. So, they are actively growing themselves. A good, healthy relationship is a relationship that makes you better as a person. You should be able to point to, since I've been in a relationship with this person, these are the ways in which I've become better. And a person can't make you better if they aren't also actively working on making themselves better. Ideally, the two of you are growing together and improving each other as you improve yourselves. So, number three, the third green flag that we're going to talk about is someone who is easy to be around. So when a person is easy to be around, you feel good when you are around them. You feel good about them, about how the relationship is progressing. There's a book that I highly recommend. It's called The Body Keeps Score. And it talks about all the ways in which, emotional, mental trauma impacts our physical bodies. And, it works in the reverse as well, not just, the bad things, but also the good things are great for our bodies as well. So when you are around someone who makes you feel good, then it's good for your overall well being. Also, if someone is easy to be around, they are consistently kind. So, not just nice when they want something from other people, but someone who's just a nice person in general. They are also, to that point, nice to everyone. This is one of the reasons why I am in favor of having a meal on a first date, because if someone treats restaurant servers like crap, then that is not somebody you want to be with. That is immediate red flag. You just need to go, forget about it. Because the best way to see a person's true personality is how they treat people who can do nothing for them. So I'm talking about servers at a restaurant. Um, Anyone whose job is to serve you. So that goes for like cashiers in stores as well. Also, how someone treats, the elderly, how they treat small children who they could in some ways be seemingly above that person. So you want someone who is consistently kind, someone who is kind to everyone. You want someone who is accommodating. Now, this does not mean pushover. And I really want to emphasize that because I also don't want you to be a pushover or a people pleaser. There's a difference between just giving in to whatever somebody else wants and being willing to talk things out, being willing to compromise, being willing sometimes to agree to disagree. You want someone who is accommodating like that. You want someone who obviously treats you well, and you want someone who is engaged. And by engaged, I mean that when you are in conversation with them, they are present. They are listening. There's a back and forth. So it's not like they only talk about themselves and you're supposed to be a captive audience, or they let you do all the talking and then they never say anything. You want an active conversation. You want someone who shows that they're interested in the things that you're saying by the questions that they ask, by the follow up that they ask for. So, our number 4 green flag is someone who has their own life. Codependency is not cute. Like, it's just not cute at all. So, you want to be in a relationship in which you have your own hobbies and interests that are separate from the other person's hobbies and interests. You want to have friends that are separate from the other person's friends. That doesn't mean that both your groups of friends can't come together. That doesn't mean that over the course of a relationship, you won't become friends with some of his friends and he'll become friends with some of yours. But let me know if you've ever seen this before. You've been in situations where there's a breakup and there's also a friend divorce. So, I had this happen to me years ago. I was in a relationship where because I was young and dumb, um, I got in this relationship, and as I started dating the guy, I slowly stopped spending time with my friends and only hung around with his. And when the relationship ended, when we broke up, you know, I broke up with him and I thought that I would still have all these friends. And no, because they were his friends to begin with. So, basically I had to go back to my friends and, with my tail between my legs and be like, I messed up and get my friends back. You want to make sure that you have your own life and that he has his own life as well. One person is not supposed to be all things to you. When you get married, when you find your husband, of course, he's going to be a huge part of your life. But there are going to be some gaps. And that is why you have your own family. That is why you have your own personal relationship with God. That is why you have your own friends as well to fill those gaps. And, sometimes you're going to have problems that you're not necessarily going to want to discuss with your husband. Sometimes he is the problem, and you want to be able to discuss that with someone else. But also, like, there are women, feminine problems that I don't go to my husband about. Like, I have female friends for that. So you want to make sure that you both have your own thing going in addition to the time that you spend with each other. So we're about to get to our fifth green flag, and I just want to recap the first four. So you want someone who has emotional intelligence, you want someone who is self aware, and someone who is easy to be around, and someone who has their own life. This fifth one is incredibly key, and this is someone who moves the relationship along at a comfortable pace. So, again, if you're following me, you are dating with the intention of marriage. So, you don't want to be with someone who, whenever you ask, where's this relationship going? They say something along the lines of, oh, let's just chill and see. I don't know. I don't like to put labels on things. That's someone who's not marriage minded. So, it's automatically going to be a no for you. At the same time, you also don't want love bombing. Now, I want you to be very careful with this because there are people who are just naturally generous. There are men, my husband's one of them, who, when you start dating them, they are going to automatically start with like giving gifts, being very generous with their resources. And by resources, I do mean time as well, not just money. They are just the type that they're giving. But what you're looking for is you don't want someone who, at the beginning of the relationship, is first of all trying to get married on the first day. And also someone who is doing a lot of future faking, as in they're automatically talking about weddings and kids and stuff like that. And you've only been out together like twice. You also don't want someone who is, when I say love bombing, I'm talking about they are going out of their way, they're giving all these gifts, they're also starting to isolate you, so, like, they take up all of your time, you're never around anybody else because every moment is dedicated to them, and then, they get you to this point where you feel like you're spoiled, and after getting to that point, then they start to slack off. They're not keeping it up. They start giving you less and less, and training you really to expect less and less. So you want someone who moves the relationship at a comfortable pace. They're not trying to move too fast. They're not trying to get you to make a commitment without knowing who they are, essentially pulling a bait and switch because they'll come across as this really great person to begin with. And then the second you commit, the real them shows up. At the same time, if again you're dating with the intention of marriage, you want someone who is clear about that as well. The fact that they are really making this effort to get to know you, to evaluate and discern whether or not the two of you are right for each other. Want to be clear on that as well. Not whether or not you are a good person and they are a good person. Um, when I was single, I dated plenty of men who were good men. In fact, I would say that some of the ones that I dated were even great men, but they were not my man. And that doesn't take anything away from them. A lot of them are happily married now with women who are their women, because obviously I wasn't their woman either. So, it's not a matter of taking it personal if a relationship doesn't work out, but it's understanding that what's for you is what's for you. And the person being good or great is only part of that. Like, obviously, you want your future husband to be a great man, but he also has to be right for you. He has to be able to love you in the way that you need to be loved. The two of you have to have shared values. Note that I said shared values, not necessarily shared interest, but shared values, same similar beliefs about faith, whether or not you want to have kids. Um, it's good to have similar values on like politics and things like that as well. Not that you necessarily have to. I've seen marriages where um, the Conways, George and I want to say his wife is Anne Conway. If you've never heard of them, George Conway is a Democrat and like a political analyst who's constantly on CNN and all that. His wife, Kellyanne, I'm sorry, her name is Kellyanne Conway. Kellyanne Conway worked for the Trump administration. So their political beliefs couldn't be further apart, but they've been married for, I don't know, 20, 30, 40 years, something like that. So, not necessarily the same political values, but it does help. You want someone who has shared values with you in general. And dating is getting to know those things and understanding those things using that discernment. So a relationship ending is oftentimes just a matter of incompatibility in those ways, not necessarily that a person on either side did anything wrong. So these are 5 green flags that you want to look out for in a relationship. Let me know if you would like to hear any more green flags or any more about discernment. I can do a separate video on discernment, and I will talk to you soon. Love you.